Hey, it's Greg Stanley with the Collector Car Podcast. I'm at the Blue Wire Studio in Las Vegas at the Wynn and reviewing some of the cool cars from the Las Vegas Concord Elegance, as well as some fun questions with my guest today, Bruce Meyer. Bruce, how you doing, buddy?
Just great. Great to be here, and it's a terrific weekend in Las Vegas.
It really has been. It's been absolutely gorgeous. You're a previous podcast guest, and what I remember about our last discussion is I could have talked to you for like 3 hours. Like there was no problem coming up with questions or back and forth. You know, it was just loving the automotive hobby and sharing it. So I appreciate you being back on the podcast.
It's my pleasure, and the best part about the automotive hobby are the people.
It really is.
That's what brings you back, and it's been the driving force for me, through the Peterson and the Checkered Flag 200 and so forth.
Yeah.
It's just a great group of folks that are very welcoming, and I don't want to offend anybody, but recently I've had some exposure to the art world and a little bit to the horse world.
Okay.
And those are both passions that it matters what you have.
Right, right.
In the car world, it matters not.
You're right. Yep.
It doesn't matter if you have a vintage truck or you're the guy that drove the rig in that brought the cars, or you just like trucks. I mean, everybody's welcome and everybody's treated the same. There's no hierarchy.
You're so true. That's so true, because just think about a Ferrari GTO. You could walk up to the owner of one of the most expensive cars in the world, or it could be a 65 Mustang, and you're probably
or a Pontiac GTO.
Or a Pontiac GTO.
Not
and
for
you're probably going to have the same conversation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of a mutant gene, that it's in you or it's not. And I have 3 children, and it definitely took on one of them. And I mean, I grew up with that mutant gene, and my parents did everything possible to, keep me focused on what they think or what they thought were the most important things in life. And all I could think about was hot rods and drag racing and doing stupid stuff.
Well, I think it worked out pretty well for you, though, right?
I have to pinch myself. Yeah, the car world has worked out for me, and I've just been blessed. I had great parents. I would never be here today without my parents. I saw a cartoon the other day that said, well, I don't even want to say it, but it was like,
I got to hear the cartoon now.
Okay, I can show you the cartoon, but it's a great picture of like a 6-year-old smoking a cigar, saying something to the effect that, without guidance, he'd be turning wrenches, driving fast cars and chasing hookers, or
right.
something like that. And he's just this little kid with a big cigar in his mouth. So I don't think I'd have been chasing the hookers. I've been married for 53 years, but turning wrenches and, doing the other,
that's it.
Parts of misbehaving in the car, I'd be right there.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today, and I'm going to ask you 8 questions in a bit for our automotive and for our personal, so kind of mixing it up a little bit, get our listeners to learn even more about Bruce. But before I do that, tell us about the Las Vegas Concours, your involvement, and then 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever of your favorite cars from the show field yesterday.
Sure. Well, first of all, the Wynn.
Yes.
I mean, come on.
Yep.
5-star, over 4,000 rooms. Service that you only get in the small boutique hotels in the world, the peninsulas or, whatever the 5-star hotels are. I mean, the place is spotlessly clean.
Yep.
Every single person from the bathroom monitor,
Yep.
I want to say janitor, to the person that's, taking your bags, to reception, concierge, they're all so polite and so respectful.
That's so helpful. Yep.
Really great. So when you start with a property like this, you can only screw it up. and this is the second year, as far as I know, here. I was here the first year. They asked if I'd come. Steve Whiteman, who's president of the Wynn, and Paulie Friedman, who's running the Concours, asked if I would come and just observe last year's event.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice. But I produce a car show on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills, And I'm not a fan of judged shows.
Right.
There's only one judged show in the world, in my opinion, that's worthy, and that's Pebble Beach.
Right. Yep.
Because they really have knowledgeable judges, really at the highest level.
Right.
Beyond that, like Bill Warner produced the Amelia Island, which I loved. And, when you went there, you knew the guy wasn't going to say he had the wrong hose clamps,
Right.
because it was more of beauty contest and history and racing, which checks every box for me.
Sure. Yeah.
So the first and last year here at the Wynn, they had brought in judges, and I'm going to offend a lot of people who got comped last year.
Right. Right.
But I said, you just got to get rid of those, not rid of those judges, but judging.
Okay.
Because unless you have the best in the world, you're just going to offend people.
Right. Right.
So I was very involved in the Quail with Gordon McCall and the founding of that. I do the show on Rodeo Drive. None of those are really judged shows.
Now, it's my understanding at the show yesterday, the participants in each class judged the cars within their class. Is that correct?
They didn't judge. They selected their favorite.
Selected their favorite. Okay, but it was within the folks that were showing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, which is nice, and you cannot vote for your own.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And that generally works, unless you have somebody out there, working the circle of cars, saying, don't you think ours is the best or the worthy? That doesn't really happen, but it could happen.
Right.
It is that could be the flaw, but overall, the people generally pick the best, the one they should. So you don't need judges for that. You do kind of need oversight when you're giving special awards, and they gave a lot of special awards yesterday, and they gave one to Philip Seraphim, who is worthy of praise, a delightful man. Do you know Philip?
I don't know him personally, no.
Well, he's on the board of the Peterson. I've gotten to know Philip over the last, maybe, I'm going to say, I'd probably say 5 years. My wife would say, oh, my God, it's been 10. Because when you're my age, it's hard to pin down a time. But he's a terrific guy, enormously generous. And he was awarded the Spirit of the Hobby Award, I believe. I forget exactly what they called it, but he is worthy of that. They also had a special award for Peter Mullen that they awarded to Merle, who's out there, flying the Mullen collection flag. So they gave a few special awards. They gave the Shelby Award and so forth.
Right.
And that's what we do on Rodeo Drive. So I think from a participant's point of view, the only thing that could spoil the show would be your expectations. And if you go with high expectations, and you could have a car worthy of high expectations.
Right. Yeah.
There's a chance you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
It's when you go, just to have a good time and be honored to be there and share your car, that's when good things happen. That's just in my history. But so I don't know where we were with this. But
No, that's a great overview, and I love your perspective. I had no idea that you were that involved with kind of crafting it this year versus previous years, kind of taking all your expertise over the decades in the automotive hobby and, kind of be a consultant, say, hey, here's how you take it to the next level. And I think that was obviously apparent this year. I interviewed Stuart last year, and he's like, hey, we put this together in 5 months. Imagine if we had a year, and I could see the progression of improvement. And just the cars were outstanding. The layout was outstanding. You had plenty of room to walk around. Speaking of the cars, what were one or two of your favorites, from yesterday?
Well, I had a favorite out there that
I can
historically favorite.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
The Mormon Meteor.
That's okay. The Mormon Meteor. You're right. That is a favorite. But I had another favorite that you wouldn't probably guess, and that was the Troutman Barnes car.
I would not have guessed.
No, it's not an attractive car.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the guiding light of I don't like to call it a collection, my accumulation of 50 years of whatever I do, is that it has to be really good looking. and it could be as famous as can be, but unless it's good looking in my eye,
Right.
I just can't get into it. This car is not good looking, but it is so historic.
Yeah.
And the owner, Mike Sheehan, I think it's Mike Sheehan, has owned it 60 years. The owner before him was a fellow named Jimmy Pfluger, who really pioneered racing in Hawaii. And the car's been in Hawaii, it's kept in Hawaii. And it's called the Troutman Barnes Special. And the car is very historic. Troutman and Barnes, a well-known pair of craftsmen. They built that car, and it was driven by Chuck Day and Ken Miles, and it was driven to victory almost everywhere it went.
Yep.
It kind of looked like a home-built lump,
Yeah.
but it was really very sophisticated. If I had to say I had one car that resonates with me, my favorite of ever, all time, is the Scarab.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Lance Reventlow put that Scarab together, and the shop that he developed was the Troutman and Barnes. In other words, the Troutman and Barnes built this special, and then along came Lance Reventlow and took over the shop and a lot of the people.
Okay.
I think Phil Remington was involved in it.
Wow. Okay.
So I mean, it's a worthy car that was out there. It won the Carroll Shelby Award, and kudos to Aaron Shelby because he made the selection, I believe.
Oh, right.
You know, there were some Shelby cars out there that he could have.
Yeah, there's some very nice ones. Some
Very
unusual
nice
ones.
Right, and he could have selected that, but to me, that shows his depth of understanding of what the roots of the.
Yeah, and there was a Shelby De Tomaso that I just thought was such a gorgeous car, and I never apparently one never seen one before. That's why.
Yeah,
But it was absolutely stunning.
well, they celebrated Pete Brock. He's a local here,
Yep.
and he's worthy of celebration.
Yep.
And he brought some of the cars that he designed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I was walking towards the car, and Pete was walking this way. So it's just a snapshot I need to remember. It's just a cool moment yesterday. So,
pretty cool.
oh, very, very cool.
So that I mean, to me, that was one of the more important cars, and I'm glad it was celebrated. Best of show, the Mormon Meteor. Come on.
Yeah.
That car is so rich in history. It's American. It's a Duesenberg.
Yeah.
Walk the walk.
Right.
And Harry Yagi, the owner.
Yeah.
There's another real quiet guy.
Yeah.
You'd never find Harry in a crowd. He just blends in.
Yep.
And he's, he has his ego's in check.
Yep.
He has fabulous cars.
Unbelievable cars. Yeah.
And he's very strategic. I mean, some people you just think, well, that guy's just lucky. No, Harry's smart.
Yep.
He has picked the right cars, and his collection. He's got a GTO and a
Yep.
Ferrari Testarossa and a Grand Sport Corvette and a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
So he's been so I'm happy for Harry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next best to show is Jeff Meyer's Mura.
Oh, yeah.
There's kind of a Mura wave going on right now.
Yeah.
Thanks to Simon Kitson, a few people
Yep.
of the Mura owners. I mean, that car could be the first real supercar.
Yes.
I mean, I like to think the Gullwing is, but because it was pretty, state of the art.
Yep.
55. But the Mura is hard to beat.
It's interesting you say that because I hear both ways. I hear the Gullwing and then I hear the Mura. To me, the Mura was designed almost as a supercar. I don't know that the Gullwing was designed necessarily because it didn't exist at the time, right? But the Mura is so outrageous. It's just both are such incredible cars.
I think you're exactly right. Exactly right.
All right.
I think the Gullwing, there were people that drove the Gullwing every day. It was their daily.
Yep.
I don't know a lot of people that had a Mura that way, but it was so extreme in the period. And Lamborghini's been great. I mean, between the Mura and the Periscopo and their whole lineup have been aspirational for young people.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think the Mura is a supercar, probably the first real supercar. I would give that my vote.
Well, like I said before, I could talk to you forever. I have 8 questions to get to.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about the Concours or cars?
Well, the only thing I would say about the Concord, a couple things.
Yeah.
Justin Bell,
Oh, yeah.
what a good guy. God, what a perfect guy for the voice of the Concord.
Yes. Agreed.
And he's such a swell person. I've known Justin a long time, so I think that was a really good choice. And afterwards, they had a bit of a download, with Steve and Paulie and a few others, and I think we've come up with just a few suggestions that might improve it for next year. But with the energy of the wind behind it, this can only get better.
Yeah, the win is incredible. It's first class the whole way. Every single aspect of the Concours is A++. It's unbelievable. Everything from the marketing to ad campaign to the layout to the food. I mean, it's just an unbelievable event.
I think next year that it will be closer to SEMA.
Mm.
I think it's more a SEMA crowd than an F1 crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And F1 isn't for another week. I think in their, overall thinking, they're thinking we're going to make this a whole F1 week, but there's not much to do between this week and next weekend.
Sure, right. Yep.
That's just my guess.
Yep.
Because I think this is a draw on its own, and I think with the wind behind it can only get better and better and better and better.
I agree with you.
And it's not a bad place to hang out.
No, it's
Lots
not.
going on. I don't think I've eaten this much in the last 4 days. I mean, wow, Delilah's
Yeah, that's awesome.
and we went to the Sphere too.
I haven't gone yet. We've been trying to get there. Was it good?
Yeah, but it was. I mean, first of all, I like the Sphere. What I like best about the Sphere is the outside.
Yeah. Okay.
It's part of this Las Vegas skyline.
Right. Right.
And that thing, they turned it into the Great Pumpkin, around
Yeah.
Halloween time. I just think they do a great job. I like what it added to the skyline. The interior is pretty exceptional. We did not see U2. We saw a film, Postcards from Earth or something like that.
Yep.
And it resembles a ride at Disneyland at California Experience or whatever they call that when you're kind of cruising over California.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It resembled that, but not as good.
It's funny because yesterday there was a moment when it had the big white smiley face looking around, and it was looking down on the Concours as if it was looking at all the different cars.
The big yellow smiley.
Yellow smiley face. Yeah. Yeah.
The happy face.
The happy face, and it looked like it was looking at all the cars on the show field. So I kept on trying to get a picture of that.
I got it. If you need it.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
All right.
I agree with you. Wasn't that fun?
All right. Well, let's get to our questions.
All right.
We could go down a rabbit trail here. All right. So 4 personal, 4 car related. And I know this answer, but not everybody might. But what was your first car?
So what do you have on your list? The first car that
Was it a Gullwing?
Oh, my first yeah. I mean, in '64.
Your first car you bought with your own money.
Okay. Well, there's 2 answers to that. Okay.
Yep.
When I went off to college, my dad gave me money for tuition, and I had to earn the rest. And the food and all that other stuff that goes with college, party money. But when I went through orientation, there was a line there for school loans. Whatever they call student loans.
Yep.
And student loans are, if you play it right, they're interest free as long as you pay it back on time. At least in my gen.
Right.
So my dad had given me money for tuition, and I just saw I could take money for nothing as long as I paid it back. I can do that. So I went and I bought a 50 Mercury.
Oh.
So that was really with money that I kind of figured out how to use. And then, of course, first thing I do is torch the springs and put it on the ground. Everything I have is on the ground.
Yeah.
Everything. My Suburban, I hate to say I have a Tesla, but everything, first thing I do is put everything on the ground. That's that hot rodder in me. Anyway, so that was the first car, the 50 Mercury. But the real first car for me that I really saved up and bought was a Porsche.
Okay. Yep.
In 1960.
Is this a Speedster?
No, it was a coupe.
Okay.
They didn't make a Speedster in 60.
Okay.
But it could have been a Speedster because they made them in 58. But I bought a new car.
Okay. Yep.
So my father said, if you save your money, I will pay half of your first car. And at that time, in like 59, 60, I was thinking Biscayne, like the cheap model Chevy with a big ass motor and a 4-speed, right? So I knew my dad would relate to the Biscayne. That is the bottom of the line for Chevy.
Right.
It's not a Bell. It is really down there. And so, he would think, boy, the boy's showing some, like whatever. He's saving his money, but he's buying the cheap Chevy. But he couldn't relate to the big engine that I had planned for the car.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I went through the whole drill. It was $2,400, big, 4-speed, everything I wanted on it. And then I'd seen these little Porsche cars. I went to like the races. I love sports car races. I was but drag racing and misbehaving on the street was probably my sport of choice.
Right.
So that's why I went for the Chevy. But then I started thinking that maybe this little Porsche thing has something to it. I went up to the Porsche agency in Hollywood. John von Neumann was the
Yes. Yep.
And I found I could get a Porsche for $2,700. So I went back to my dad. I said, I'm going with a compact car.
Oh, there you go. Very compact.
Very compact.
Yeah.
And 60 horsepower. He thought I had seen the light.
Okay.
So it was a compact car, 60 horsepower, and it was $2,700 with European delivery.
Oh, okay.
So I was telling him that I think I should get out and kind of see the world and take a little semester off school, and he just went for it all. I mean, he thought my intentions were car related.
Right. Right.
Which my family realizes now. Just about everything I do has some. They just have to find the hidden car
Right.
Element. So, anyways, I bought the Porsche. That was my first car in 1960, and it was $2,700. I didn't even get it with a radio. I mean, I got it with nothing. Other than Signal Red, which was like $12 extra. I mean, back then, $2,700 could buy you an entire car with chrome wheels.
I'm surprised they actually charged extra for a color back then.
Yeah, but it was minor.
Yeah, minor.
Signal Red.
Right.
But now, like the radio upgrade is $2,700.
Right.
It's just crazy. So that was my first car. And that really kind of got me down the road of sports cars.
Yeah, I can see why.
And I liked the car. And back then, it was a club. You'd flash your lights at everybody. It was like, if you had a Chevy, it didn't matter. But if you had a Porsche, you were kind of like,
yeah, secret handshake kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. All right. So, personal question: what is your favorite family memory? I know that's a tough one. If you need a moment, we could always.
Okay. No. You know what? I don't know why this just popped into my mind. I got a good one for you.
Okay.
Because this goes back to finding the secret car element in my plans. Okay.
Okay.
So my dad had died. I was going to Chicago. I was in the mail order business. They had a mail order convention in Chicago. So I invited my family to come back and meet me in Chicago. We were going to get a van, and we were going to drive through Michigan because I work in Michigan.
Okay.
And then we were going to go to Niagara Falls, and I invited my mother, who was recently widowed, to join us. And my mother was the powerhouse in our family.
Okay.
And I am my mom, okay? And so she just thought that was just lovely, and we're going to do this cultural tour through. Of course, for me, I wanted to go back to the Henry Ford Museum because I'd never been there.
So you're driving by like, oh, look what's over here. Let's take a turn.
Those are my words. God is my witness. We're driving along now. I know exactly when I'm going to come up with that. So we're like going through Detroit. Now, I worked in Jackson, Michigan. So we visited, Jackson. We're going through Detroit and going, you know what? There's a museum here, the Henry Ford Museum. I always wanted to, just like you said. I thought the family was going to mutiny. Not more my mom. She said, this is not a car trip. This is a family trip. And she was like right out there. So I'm driving. I'm hosting. We're going. So I said, let's just go for lunch. It was around 11:30 or so. I said, we'll go. Just give me an hour in there. I mean, I can go through any museum in an hour,
Right.
So we get there at 11:30, whatever. We all bail out. The family was just fine with it. My mom was just like not fine with it. At 5 o'clock that night, we could not get my mother out of there.
Awesome.
That is I'm on the board of the Henry Ford Museum, not because I need a board position,
Right.
but for my mom.
Oh, wow.
So the Henry Ford Museum is not a car museum. Have you been?
Yes, actually last year.
It's not a car museum.
No, it's got everything.
It's got everything.
Yep.
It's the Museum of Innovation. It's a marvelous museum.
It is.
I mean, it's just amazing. And and Henry, bought the stuff when it was new, the washing machine. My mother was from West Virginia. And we always used to kid her she grew up without shoes and all this. But truth is, she didn't have a lot of luxuries.
Right.
And she she said, oh, you got to come look at this early washing machine. This is what we had in West Virginia. It was like a tumbler or something, and a wringer. And it was stuff. And she said, they had china and silver and crystal, like from important, which my mom loved. I mean, at 5 o'clock, she was not ready to go.
That's awesome.
Isn't that amazing? That will stay with me the rest of my life. I mean, I could cry right now thinking of my mom and the Henry Ford Museum. It was so special.
That's awesome.
It's not an automotive event, but it is an automotive event. But
automotive got you there.
It
right?
got me 100%. And so now, I mean, the family's pretty well knows if I'm not going to Las Vegas to,
Gamble. Right.
That's right. There's something going on there. So the family just knows. And what's interesting is, getting back to the car hobby, it's the people. Now, I, from birth, have loved the car hobby and the car people. And when I would go somewhere, the family, oh, he's going to a car event. It was like, it wasn't like, oh, have fun at the car event. It's like, oh, you're going to a car event.
Right.
So I've grown up with that, and I've gotten over it. But the funny thing is now, when they need medical attention or they want to know somebody somewhere, it's the car people.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the best doctors and hospitals are the head of Children's Hospital, Paul Viviano, the #1 guy, is a complete Porsche guy.
Right.
Ron Busatel, head of UCLA, complete car guy.
Right.
If I need something, I call those guys, and they're right there. The car. I think if you talk to car guys, if I don't care what their profession is, if they have like incoming calls and there's a car call, they take that first.
That's the priority. It's the car
It's a
call.
priority thing. So so my family now realizes that car thing has been pretty good to us.
Yeah.
And we've met some unbelievable people. Rob Walton. I mean, who? I mean, come on. I mean, what an amazing guy. I would never know Rob without car things, and he has quite a collection, as I'm sure
I've heard.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
I wouldn't know you without the car thing, so it works out great.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've just met the nicest people, including you.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And very much including you. And your wife, who's sitting across here.
All right, car question. You've probably had this one before, but if you could only have one car for everything, what would it be?
Well, that wouldn't be my favorite.
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
it's got to do everything.
I think if I had one car, it would be a Porsche RS, 73 RS. But truthfully, it would be a 993, a turbo 993, which is like a 96, 97 Porsche turbo.
The beautiful whale tail.
To me, that car does everything. And it's got air. I've gotten kind of into the Bluetooth. I like that. And some of the nav thing, I can't find my way around without, so it doesn't have that. So I will miss that. But if I just had one car, I think it would probably be a 993 turbo. It's quick, entertaining, smooth,
beautiful,
no lag.
Yeah.
But as far as like really fun driving, it's probably a 73 RS. I just like small.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's one of the best gifts you've ever received? Doesn't have to be a car gift.
Gift of friendship.
Oh, okay.
Through the car hobby.
Yeah. Well, that's huge. I mean, just think of all the people.
It's beyond huge.
Yeah.
When I look at the friends, that's the greatest gift. I have brokered more cars than a lot of brokers.
Right.
High dollar cars. I've never taken a penny ever, and I'm proud of it. You can't buy that kind of stuff. And what it does is gotten me great friendships. Right. And people realize that I'm not in it for the money. I don't want to sound so cavalier, but I'm very happy with my lifestyle. If I had twice the money I had, I wouldn't change my lifestyle, wouldn't change my friends. But the gift of friendship, I think, is probably the coolest thing going.
That's awesome. No, that's really good. You're making me tear up now. All right, I know you're a music guy. So what's one of your favorite songs, band, or type of music?
Well, I like Billy Gibbons.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got Billy Gibbons, Jeff Beck,
Yeah.
who passed,
Mm-hmm.
was a really good friend. And I've been to his home in the UK. He's been to my house. He's driven my cars.
Yep.
He is next level guitar player.
Yeah.
It's not like wouldn't sit and listen to Jeff Beck music when I drive,
Right.
but I would sit and listen to Billy Gibbons, LaGrange. I could just play that on a reel and spend my life doing that. So I like Billy Gibbons. As far as just like music in the background, I like the Eagles. I'm kind of old school.
Yeah.
I still like, I like the Traveling Wilburys, a little group.
Yeah.
So I put that radio on.
Is that Roy Orbison?
Roy Orbison.
And
It was
Petty.
Yeah. And Petty, I listened to Petty radio.
Okay.
And also another one I listened to, Eagles.
Yeah.
Did I say the Eagles?
You said Eagles.
Okay. There's another one out there. But anyways, I'm old school.
That's good. No, that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we talked about this one briefly before this, and you couldn't think of one, but what is your most embarrassing automotive moment? There has to be something because you're at all these events. Did you walk out of a bathroom with toilet paper stuck to your heel? Anything crazy?
The visual. Okay, so I was trying to think. This is tough, but there is one that kind of comes to mind.
Okay.
And you have to kind of know about Duesenbergs.
Okay. Yep.
But when to start a Duesenberg, the starter is a pull
Yep.
on the dash, and it's connected to an arm that's connected to something, And so when you start a Duesenberg, you pull on that. So you've got these like two pulls on your dash. One is a choke, and the other is the starter. I'm at Pebble Beach. You know where this is going, right? So I pull on the choke, and I'm pulling, and I pull that thing right out of the. I mean,
oh, no.
because I'm thinking I have to. I mean, this is
You're
ridiculous.
not pulling hard enough.
That's probably the stupidest thing. I mean, there's probably a bunch of them. That just comes to mind. I just remember pulling the choke right out of the dash at Pebble Beach. That was not a fun deal.
That's a good one. I like that.
I've got to think there's some embarrassing moments when I was trying to impress somebody and I scared the shit out of myself, I remember, you've seen, it's happened to the best.
Yeah.
When I was younger, taking people for joyrides was, you did that. I would never do that now.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Because first of all, you're going to scare yourself, and you're going to do something stupid, and it defeats the purpose. Right. So I remember I had a friend. I was trying to think of, it was a car that I really wanted to ride in, and he took me for a ride, and he was just like, drove it like, I kept saying, get on it. I'm thinking to myself, show me what it'll do. And he was so adult, so I experienced the car, and I got out of the car, and I thanked him, and I thought, that actually was better.
Yeah, yeah.
So, one of my favorite cars is a Cobra.
Yeah, you got a great one.
I do have. I don't know how that happened, but I just got it. But you can embarrass yourself real bad in a Cobra. Also in a 935 Porsche, when you get too much horsepower and you accelerate, you've got to be going laser straight.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, it's going to do something unexpected. And I know in my Cobra I've done that. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And you see those reels of people leaving Cars and Coffee and they stand on it.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah.
It always ends badly. You go into the hedges and up the curb, and if you're lucky, you don't hit anybody. But that's the kind of thing I would have done in my Ute.
Yeah. Well, let's flip it. And this is our last question for you. So let's flip that. What is your proudest automotive moment? I know there's a lot, but what's your proudest?
Being here.
No, stop lying.
No, I mean that. What I mean is,
I guess I meant the podcast.
no. You know what? Okay. So I mean, I could think of a moment that made me very proud. But I think like the proudest part of my automotive world is just being considered, you know, a good person, and with some cars that are meaningful. Hmm. And if somebody would have said that to me when I was growing up, I would not know how that could ever happen.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess, you know, just being here and having people say hi that you don't even know, and thanking you for what you brought to the hobby. I've worked very hard with hot rodding.
Yeah.
Because hot rodding was like forbidden fruit for me. I say you're never too old to have a happy childhood. That's me. So I'm enjoying that. I had a hot rod on the field yesterday.
Yeah.
And we're doing this parade for the Formula One cars. I'll be driving my hot rod. But so my whole life has exceeded whatever. I never had any big aspirations or expectations, but the car hobby and the friendships and the few cars that I have now have brought me the most happiness. Was the question? I don't know where I'm going with
the
this.
Proudest automotive.
That is the proudest. That's created the pride.
No, that's perfect. That's great.
And of course, winning, you know, winning something at Pebble Beach is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I've been really lucky there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's great, and I appreciate you being on the Collect a Car podcast today, because you're a returning guest, so that means the first time you must have enjoyed it. So I appreciate that.
You know what? You make it easy.
Good.
And you make it fun. I'm looking right at your smiling face. You know, it's not like it's put on. I mean, you're a happy guy. I can tell.
I'm a happy car guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Lot
and so am I. So we have that in common too.
We do have that in common too.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. All right. Thanks, Bruce, so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.